So hey guys, today we're going to just do an overview on Fiendsmith and why I think it's really not that great. Well, right now at least. Maybe things will change for, well, later. So what does Fiendsmith do that's particularly degenerate? Well, not much right now. If we're looking in terms of the main deck cards, they're kind of mid, honestly, just whatever cards indeed. So let's assume we open any of these Fiendsmith cards. It doesn't really matter, honestly. If we specifically open Fiendsmith Tract, what we can do with Fiendsmith Tract is Fiendsmith Tract allows us to add any Light Fiend monster from your deck to your hand, which is kind of nuts in the same way that Tenpai could add any Fire Dragon to your hand within like reason. I think it was like level 4 or lower, but this one doesn't even have that restriction. So technically, if there was like a light fiend monster that was like I don't know, level 12 or something in the main deck, you would be able to add that. I think monsters only go up to like 10 in main deck though. So was it 10? Maybe. Don't recall. But you'd be able to add, for example, Amano Kujaki, which has the effect of you can activate the effects of other special summon monsters with the same attribute as this card. This is a restriction on yourself. And then once returned during the main phase of this card's owner, quick effect, you can give control of this card to your opponent. Then you, the activating player, can make this card become any attribute until the end of the next turn. But this can be linked off, so that this card kind of trash. But yeah, just add any light fiend monster. So in most cases, people will probably be adding Lurie because I've kind of gone through all of the targets before, and they're only realistically, if I recall, aside from like Engraver Lurie, there are like two other kind of decent Light Fiend targets. One of them being Eccentric, and then I believe maybe Santa Claus was a Light Fiend or something. So yeah, this would be the other one. So it's just these three realistically, but no one's running tracked for these guys. But I mean, you definitely could. So with Fabled Lurie, if we just specifically open track discard Fabled Lurie, we can go link one into Fiendsmith's Requiem, and then we special summon Engraver, and then we cannot get the Engraver into the graveyard. So you can only link off for Requiem once per turn. If you could do two, it would be a one card combo if you just could put Lurie on the field in order to go into sequence to make either Desiree or Lacrima. If you were to special summon Lacrima in this case, you'd always be able to target Engraver in order to special summon Engraver or add it to your hand, whichever one is better for the given situation, I guess, because it might vary a little bit, but general idea. You go Lacrima, summon Engraver, and then you can make Beatrice. And Beatrice can send whatever two cards you want, essentially. There's some decks that benefit off of this in the sense that we can do Beatrice to send a starter, and there are some cards that are kind of like one card starters if you send them to the graveyard, or like one card and a half where you need like a certain card in your hand to get to kind of work, like Tearlaments, for example. If I had a Havness in hand, I could send Shirin, or if I had Shirin, I could send Havness, whatever. And then with that, we would be able to then make kick Kelos and then go like Tearlament combo or something. But the most degenerate thing you can do with Beatrice is, of course, to do the effect to send Transaction, Rollback, and then send Ghost Meets Girl. So this card right here, your opponent essentially will not be able to special summon monsters, and this is a lingering floodgate. To summarize what this card does, basically. I mean, that's not exactly what it does, but that's functionally what it does, if that makes sense. There's still some nuance to it, but yeah, we won't go over that in too much detail here. So that's about it. You know, it's just make Beatrice, which I mean, it can do things and stuff. Like, for example, if we were playing Orchest, sending Harp Horror, just, you know, this is in general just combo. So at this point, you kind of look at Nightmare Mermaid, and it's like, why even bother playing this garbage? But yeah, that's just a thought I had. But yeah. Next thing you can do is you can make Fiendsmith's Desiree, and then you can probably link off sequence for something else, and then you can use sequence's effect to attach onto the Desiree, and then the Desiree has this kind of quick effect, omni negate effect. So this can technically target multiple things on the field, and it can target your own cards as well. So one way you can use this card is you can activate Promethean Princess to special summon back a fire monster, and then negate Promethean Princess with Desiree to make Apollosa using the Promethean Princess, which is kind of whatever, honestly, because you still need a fire monster to like trigger Promethean Princess graveyard effect, so that's not like generically super splashable anywhere. And also all these cards are like light, so that doesn't like fully help in that sense, I guess. Aside from that, there is also a bunch of if this card is sent to the graveyard effects on these fusion monsters for whatever reason. So with this one in particular, it's sent to graveyard. This card is sent to the graveyard. You can target one card on the field, send it to the graveyard. On this one, it's just burn. And they also recycle themselves. So the best part about Fiendsmith is probably if you don't deal with it accordingly, it's kind of got a lot of recursion and kind of a grind game going. But yeah, in general, the one card combo, so like Lurry, it's not a one card combo. So with Tract, we would need one more body. So it's actually a 2-card combo. So if we were looking to just make the Beatrice or make Desiree here, either option, you'll need 2 cards if you open Tract or Lurry. Because I guess you can technically normal summon Lurry, and that kind of works. And then if we open Fiendsmith Engraver, you can use Fiendsmith Engraver effect in the graveyard to special summon itself, but this is only something you'd be doing for the most part if you have access to both Engraver and Tract, and for the Stappen you would need to more or less open Engraver in hand. So yeah, in terms of like, well, engine, I think it's not that great. Even something like a Kashtira is more efficient than this. And the mass starters for Kashtira, also not great. You have 3 1 cards. But you know, for example, if I were playing Kashtira, well, at like full power, I guess, because the cards are limited. So assume I have 3 rates off and 3 unicorn. I'd be able to very consistently, well, fairly consistently get access to unicorn, special summon unicorn immediately if you try to interact in certain ways, like Ash the unicorn. Then I can activate unicorn, snipe your extra deck. That's a lot more diddly than this to begin with, right? And also going second, if I do like Engraver to attract, it's not that threatening. Like just in general, it's not really that threatening. The only thing you really do, I think, is you just have Requiem equipped to Engraver, and then you're able to use Engraver effect to send a monster and also send the Requiem. I guess technically you can do that, but I don't really think that's super threatening because it requires so much extra deck. So even if you do not run the Beatrice, you would run the Goddess of the Closed World or whatever it's called. So let's see if I could find that real quick. So no, not that. Okay. Is it something like Closed Moon? Closed Heaven. Ah, yep, this card. You would be running this to link up any 2 monsters to go into the Link 1 Requiem, which requires any Light Fiend monster, which this is, so you can go any 2 effect monsters into the Requiem. But the downside to this package is it takes up 1/3 of your extra deck, taking out, well, a lot of valuable extra deck space that would be better suited for more powerful, well, going second cards or more generically useful cards. And honestly, a lot of decks, in my opinion, just don't really have issues with going first anyway, so going to this extreme is like not that useful. And also the engine itself, even for like trying to try hard go first, I guess, it's also not that great, and as engine, just right now, not that great. If we were to open like Unicorn or just whatever, you could do your full play and then just end on a Rise Heart, right? And this is genuinely a one card. And even if we just open Unicorn and we don't open our other engine, like maybe we're playing, I don't know, Victoria with Vanquish Soul, let's say, doesn't really matter. So we could do all of our Vanquish Soul plays and then make our Kuchtira plays, right? But if we open the Kuchtira stuff, we can just make the Kuchtira plays and we're okay. If we open just the Fiendsmith plays, right now you're not guaranteed to be able to make the plays. So a scuffed thing you could do, I guess, is if we open like Tract, we could normal summon like a maxx or some hand trap to then make a single Desiree and pass. That's about like what you can do with Tract, plus one hand trap or one normal summon of some variety. Aside from that, you could make Beatrice, which is potentially comboed depending on exactly what deck you're playing, which is still like meh, because it still dies to one interaction. And if you get interacted with at any point in time, you just have like absolutely no play anyways, so it's like very meh. If we were then to take this a step further, just another reason I think that Fiendsmith is just not that worth running is because there are actually better engines to insulate your going first plays. So in terms of just raw engine, why would we play Fiendsmith when we have Centurion? So let's just list some of the upsides Centurion has over Fiendsmith. So first off, the engine pieces are in general going to be a little bit better for Centurion because of what they do. And also they're genuinely one card combos. It does also have garnets, but I mean Blurry is a garnet, so whatever. So if we want to run this fairly efficiently, I think 2 garnets is pretty reasonable. So something like, well, it depends on exactly what deck you're playing, I guess, but for the most part, we have more starters as well. So we have 3 copies of Stand Up Centurion, 3 copies of Emblema Oath. So combo line here, pretty simple. You have 2 options to either go into Legacia or Auxilla, and neither option really locks you. But let's assume we do so. We go into either Legacia or Auxilla, and then we're able to then, of course, next turn we can special summon the Crimson Dragon, which allows us to make Cosmic Blazar. But the thing about the Cosmic Blazar is actually better recursion, I think, than Desiree, and the quality of the negate is much higher. So the thing with the Desiree is that the effect here is going to be you negate the effects of a number of face-up cards on the field. So if they don't act, if the card does not activate on the field, you can't interact with it at all with the Desiree, which kind of sucks. But the other thing is, if your opponent is activating a high value card, you can't just wait to negate more cards. You would just have to negate immediately. So more often than not, the expectation shouldn't be that you're able to like negate multiple cards with the Desiree. You're probably only negating 1 or 2 at best. And even if we had like 10 link rating worth of equip cards on Desiree, we're probably still only ever going to negate a very small number of cards. Unless you're somehow going second and you have somehow multiple sequences attached to your Desiree, but yeah, that's not happening now, is it? So yeah, with Desiree effect, this is just not going to be that insane. Like if your opponent activates, let's say evenly matched or Raigeki, you just have to negate it with Desiree. You don't really have a choice, or you lose your whole board. So yeah, not really great in that case, because it's not that much more value than a Blazar. And Blazar is more applicable to more situations. So I'd say in general, Blazar is going to be better in most cases. So yeah, we have Blazar, which is also just not even soft once per turn. It's none of the effects are even once per turn. So if we summon multiple Blazar, which we can because Crimson Dragon will keep recycling itself, that this is just in general, in my opinion, just better. And if we think about it, Centurion really is just like better adventure engine to an extent. Well, yeah, kind of. And the interactions we get from this it's just going to be a lot better. So if we open Engraver, and then we go through the line for Desiree, well, I think Beatrice kind of is like a different story, but if we go for Desiree in our little Fiendsmith combo, this is genuinely just going to be the Desiree negate, and it's not even a 1 card, keep it that in mind, so we would have to normal summon Ash Blossom Joe Spring or something. But if we were to instead open like Emblem of Oath, this will not even require a normal summon. So we can place a Centurion monster from our deck, or we can set a Centurion spell trap directly from our deck. Either one is pretty fine, but whatever. So let's assume we grab Stand Up Centurion. Stand Up Centurion will place Trudea Special Summons, then places itself. And then we can grab Primera. In this line, then we would grab Wake Up, and then Wake Up allows us to special summon a token, which then we can use to synchro summon with the Primera into either Legacia or Auxilla. If we do Legacia, this will allow us to get a draw. If we do Auxilla, this will allow us to grab Phalanx, which you don't actually have to run Phalanx, because if you just run the Legacia instead, we can just settle for the draw, and we're still fine in that regard. It depends how much of the package you want to run, I suppose. If you want to play it very minimalistic, I think Legacia might be a little bit better than Auxilla. But yeah, this also has, of course, the Destruction ability, which is kinda nice, I suppose. It is a 3.5k guy as well, so kinda big. But that aside, main thing that we care about here is we're going to get this draw, we get this big body, this Legacia, and then also we're going to get access to synchro again on our opponent's turn next turn. So there are a lot of options we can do that with this. Like, well, it's not going to be with just the 1 card if we want to make Chaos Angel, but Chaos Angel is technically a viable option. But for the most part, we're looking at just the Blazars, which we can start kind of spitting out, I guess. So if we're running the package like very minimalistically, in comparison to Fiendsmith, this is what the package would look like for Centurion. So all we would need is 1 Legacia, and then we don't really need Auxilla for anything, honestly. So then it's just Crimson Dragon. So grab this guy, and then it would just be your copies of Cosmic Blazar. And if we wanted to go all out, we could just run 3 like that, and over time we'll end up getting more and more Blazars, and it'll be like impossible to deal with pretty much. That's kind of the idea here. And yeah, in general, this is pretty rough to deal with, I would say, as well. And here in this case, this actually has a small advantage over Fiendsmith. So Fiendsmith, you're definitely going to special summon multiple times from the extra deck. So already we have to go like Requiem, Sequence, and then like Desiree at least. So assuming we're not doing like a Beatrice line, we can just do, in this case, if we just do Desiree, if our opponent does any normal summon, they can just run over Desiree with Typhon, which kind of sucks. I mean, of course, you do have this effect here, which can get rid of your opponent's Typhon after they trade. So this is going to be like relevant later in the turn, I suppose. But if you try to make Typhon against Cosmic Blazer, the summon of the Cosmic Blazer can be negated. So this, in my opinion, is like a little bit better. It kind of depends though on exactly what's happening, but you don't necessarily need to attack into the Desiree with your Typhon. You can kind of just sit on it, and it can kind of like prevent the other monsters on your board from activating, depending on exactly what they are. But Blazer just, for some reason, just happens to play around just Typhon anyway, so it's a little bit better in that regard. I guess the next turn you'd be able to Desiree negate Typhon, but it gets a little bit complicated, I suppose. Main point is that Typhon can get immediately dealt with by the Blazar, not so immediate by Desiree, so that's a thing, I suppose. And if you were to just negate the Typhon, Typhon can run over, but next turn, of course, you have all your recycling stuff, and then you can go like Requiem, sequence again to make this ray, I suppose. But you have to go ahead and go through the process of making Desiree, but if we had Cosmic Blazer, we would just retain it from the last turn, which is a little bit better as well. And I guess if we did want to commit Normal Zone, there's even more like 1 cards than this, just to output like a couple of Blazars. And of course, going second ability, yeah, not really great. If we were to do the card math on this, it's genuinely pretty awful. So we'll just use Kushtira monsters just for the sake of this example. So if we wanted to make, I guess, Fiendsmith combo, well, it wouldn't be great to use Kushtira cards for this, I suppose. Maybe something else. So the Fiendsmith combo, if we wanted to do it, essentially we would go Goddess of Closed Heaven. So we would need to link off. We would need, wait, is it not Goddess? Was this thing called Moon of the Closed Heaven? Oh, whatever. So we would have to link off 2 monsters or Moon. So if we were to do like special summon Kushtira Unicorn, normal summon Rise Heart, we can make Moon, but then if we go Requiem into a engraver, we can't do anything at this point. So it's not any link 2 or any 2 monsters going into the link 2. That is not in fact Fiendsmith combo. You need 3 effect monsters to kind of have combo, which is kind of awful considering, you know, well, we could also, I don't know, link 2 into Verte, make Dragoon, DB. That is a little bit better right now, I would think. I mean, it runs like a few more Garnets in this, so it's technically also worse in that way, which kind of sucks. But aside from just Verte, yeah, we could also do this. So in terms of like just 1 card combos, and also just for comboing on the first turn, it's really not the best. For going second, it's also not the best. So yeah, in general, if we're looking at just like cards and engine pieces for going first and second, just I think they're just better cards than the Fiendsmith cards as of currently. Even if we play like some pure archetypal cards in some pure archetype decks, they would just do better, I guess. Just in general, I feel. Like sure, you can go first a little bit better in some cases, but if you focus all of your eggs in one basket, you're just going to get completely railed going second. And this deck is unironically, well, not just this deck, but this engine is riddled with holes and has a lot of issues. So the general build for like the Fiendsmith decks right now goes something like this. So you have all your Fiendsmith engines and then your other engine. So in this case, we'll just put in something for fun. This isn't necessarily going to be functional, but you know, about you have like this many engine cards, you know, just like, you know, something like this, about 20, maybe a little less engine, like 20, 15 engine, and then the rest will be hand traps. So stuff like, I don't know, Ash Blossom, mulcharmies. That doesn't really matter which one we put in, I guess. Maxx, called by Imperm, and then we have like cross out, effect Valor, and then what else are we missing? I don't know, maybe some Bistrels, sure. I don't know, something like this. And this is like kind of what your deck looks like, kinda, right? So we're going to focus more on the ratios here rather than the actual deck build. So the thing about these cards here, how many of these cards are genuinely dead going second if your opponent just activates like, well, I guess this is a bad example because these are literally Kushtira cards, but imagine there's Snake Eye cards instead. So against a single macro, how many cards do you have live? And the answer is 0. Your whole deck is now dead, basically, against macro. Like an actual legit macro, you can't do anything. You cannot special summon Diabellstar. You cannot activate any of your Azumina cards. All of those are dead. Your hand traps don't interact with the macro at all. So you have like a horrendous weakness to a macro. Like it's not even funny. And this effect here, at least this discard. So technically, I guess, if you're really going for it, you can grab Eccentric. I don't even know if this is really worth doing, but you know, when like Engraver or Tract, do grab the Eccentric to pop one back row. But I mean, yeah, not looking so great. So no back row removal here, and if you try to fit in back row removal, it's just not going to really make that much of a difference because back row removal only goes so far. So if we were to just put in like 3 pieces of back row removal, that will mess with your going first and second in kind of bad ways as well. Because I guess the engine's just not that efficient. And the hand quality that we're going to get, it's not going to be that great, honestly. Like right here, we opened 0 engine. The only thing we got is Tract, which we already established is not combo. So in this hand, the best play for you would be to try to activate Tract and Fiendsmith combo with like normal summon Perulia, because you can't activate Perulia anyways, assuming we were going first, assuming we were going second. If our opponent, well, has an Ash Blossom Joe Spring, we're kind of cooked for the most part. I guess Ogre could technically be like a not so good piece of engine here. So maybe this would be like a Snake Eye Oak, which I mean is Oak combo here. No, it's not. So yeah, it doesn't really do much. Could be Oak, could be Flambridge. Because honestly, I think Ogre is kind of like mid. Kind of depends. It can be like a thing for 2-card combos, but there's no like 2-card combo here in this hand, I suppose. So here we have some engine. We don't even see or gain access to the Fiendsmith stuff really. So yeah. Here we have Double Engraver, which is just unlucky, I guess. And then we have Perulia, which is dead. So that doesn't do much for you. And then we have like some other engine piece here. So I mean, this is about moderate. But what do we do if our opponent hits us with like a mulcharmy or maxx? We have no play because, well, we have no good play because this deck, the idea behind it is not that great, honestly. I don't think, because you know, against maxx you just don't have a good line. You just stop what you're doing and hope your opponent just doesn't have a good hand. That's your option against maxx really, because we have no options with the Fiendsmith stuff because it takes so many summons to get anywhere. So if we look at the Fiendsmith engine itself, how many summons and card activations do you actually need to do to actually get a piece of interaction for turn 2? So activate Engraver. If this gets ashed, technically, I mean, you could still technically have a Tract, but all right, let's say Tract gets ashed then. Tract gets ashed. It does nothing, I guess. Cool. But if we're just counting summons, I guess this is a really frail 1-card combo worth mentioning. Like Circular would not die to 1-hand trap, so in that sense, also worse. But all right. Let's see. Activate Tract, special summon Lurie. So special summoning Lurie is mandatory if you discard it. That's worth mentioning, I suppose. But alright, special summon once, twice, 3 times, and then you would need to at least do a normal summon, so I wouldn't count that as a special summon. And then special summon 4, and then special summon Desiree, which is like summon 5. Or if we want to go Lacrima, Beatrice, that is going to be 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 special summons for about like arguably 1 piece of interaction. So yeah, not exactly great against hand traps or like starter extender wise. Not that great either right now. I mean, it could change in the future, and maybe my like um impression will be changed a little bit, but as of currently, like this is probably just worse than just running like Centurion with your deck, like no joke. And speaking of like hand traps and stuff, right? If I get hand trapped on my engraver, then I have depression basically, right? Like on your engraver, on your tract. If certain cards here get hit, you're kind of just done for, I guess. So with Centurion, this is not completely necessarily going to be the case. So with Trudea, if I were to special summon Trudea in defense, this is a 2k wall, which isn't easily beatable by like a lot of normal summons, which is nice. So you have Trudea, which can actually activate technically every single turn, rather than just how like Tract works. So if I were to activate like Emblema Oath or Stand Up Centurion, these two cards are very hard to interact with. So this places a Centurion card. So it's either going to set a spell trap or it's going to place a Centurion monster. So both of these effects, not ashable. And then Stand Up Centurion effect to place a Centurion monster from your is this hand or deck? Place from your deck. Yeah, whatever. So we can place Trudea from our deck, and then special summon Trudea in defense. Attempt to activate Trudea effect. If you imperm Trudea here, we still have plays and options, right? Like, I don't know, using Trudea again next turn. If we were to Tract, if Tract gets ashed or hand trapped or whatever, you have to draw back into the Fiendsmith stuff with Trudea. There's a possibility, it's not really guaranteed, right? But there's still the possibility Trudea might retain on your field, and it's still a threat, which the Fiendsmith cards are not. So just in quality right now, I think. And for what you might be looking for, Centurion's just better. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.